Hi friends, Tony Howard here, and I'm here with Demetra George, and we're here to tell you about Demetra's new course, a Hellenistic Astrology Primer. And Demetra, can you tell us a little bit about what students can expect in this course, what you're going to teach them?
Yes. Many of you may be aware that this past year I have a new book, Ancient Astrology in Theory and Practice, that has been published, and that book contains almost everything I've learned in the last 25 years about the subject of planetary condition. What were the factors that traditional astrologers for an almost 2,000-year period looked at when they were gazing at a chart and trying to assess the indications and meaning of that chart. And before any kind of interpretation, the first step was assessing a planet's condition in terms of, based upon astrological factors, how capable was it of bringing forth its most positive agenda for the best interest of the individual. And they looked at many factors, some of which have been lost to modern astrology because of gaps in the transmission of the ancient material and its translation, which since the mid-90s, our community has had the great good fortune to have access to the work of translators bringing this back to us. But concepts such as day and night sect of a planet's sign in terms of 4 different systems of rulership, of a planet's relationship to the sun and also to the moon as being special factors, and a whole different theory of what aspects meant and how to go about interpreting them. And after considering many different criteria, the astrologer would integrate this material, balance a planet as strong in this area but weak in some other area, and come forth with a judgment about how well that planet would be likely to perform on behalf of the individual. And this was the thinking of the ancient astrologers. The system in its full manifestation can be relatively complex on first preview. And however, I have set down all that information that I've understood in the Ancient Astrology book. But there's a very special something that happens when an astrologer learns from a live teacher that bypasses certain circuits that are only available in reading the material. I spent almost 20 years teaching this process to private students on an individual one-on-one basis, and then in facilitating a number of 5-day retreats where again that was that direct transmission. But now as time has gone on, the world's changing, I'm older, I wanted to set forth these teachings in a way that I could have be able to disseminate them to a much larger audience. And trying to do everything in the book would be way beyond the capacity of what's digestible in one course. So in this particular course that I'm teaching, I'm taking the first principles, the core techniques of each criteria of planetary condition, and presenting that material to the students. And then comes part 2 of the application of the principles that I'll demonstrate in charts that we'll be using through the recordings. And then you will have 2 homework charts to do on your own, and we'll go over the correct answers for those the following week. And then in addition, you will have your own chart and 4 other charts of people that you either personally know or celebrities whose lives you're familiar with and interested in. And by the time you run through a technique in 9 charts, you will have it integrated into your psyche. And I can say that with confidence because I've seen that process work now in hundreds of students that I've connected with. So I'm very excited to share this first level material with you, and this will give you the foundation to then go back into the ancient astrology book and better be able to understand and work through the more advanced material that exists in each section.
So Dimitra, is this course appropriate for somebody who's just learning astrology from scratch, like they're a brand new beginner?
Almost, Tony. What is ideal for beginning astrology students is that you have a rudimentary knowledge of what the planets mean, of what the signs mean, of what the houses mean, and what the aspects mean. So I'm not going to be going through and telling you Aries means this and Taurus means that there are other teachers and other courses that are more appropriate for you to gain that information. But even though you are at the beginning level of your studies, that many younger people now entering the field have caught the buzz of Hellenistic astrology, and that they want to be able to learn some of those techniques from the very start of their studies. And so in that way, this course is appropriate for beginners. The other group of astrologers who this course is designed for is seasoned professional or intermediate astrologers who have been working in any one of the modern approaches over the past century and last century. But as they've attended conferences and read books and gone to their local groups, they've heard a lot of talk about Hellenistic and traditional astrology, and some of the terminology may be unfamiliar to them, and they're wondering, what is this all about, and is there anything in it that I might find valuable to be able to integrate into my modern practice? And so this course is simultaneously for people who have studied astrology for a number of years and are curious about a new phenomenon or wave that is sweeping over our community at this time.
So in this course, you're going to be teaching folks about planetary condition. Can you tell folks who might not be familiar with that term what that concept is referring to?
Yes, it is assessing the condition of each planet in terms of, based upon astrological factors, its relative capacity to bring forth its best possible significations or agenda for the long-term best interests of the individual whose chart it happens to be placed in. And ancient astrologers looked at a number of factors of day and night sect, of the planet's sign, using 4 different systems of zodiacal rulership, understanding that planets had more and different kinds of powers and resources available in some signs than in others, that help them do the kinds of events that they were trying to bring forth. There are a number of conditions of a planet's relationship to the sun that determined its speed, its visibility, its direction, its phase, and all of that had interpretive meaning. There were a number of factors relative to the planet's relationship with the moon that, among other things, help ground and make manifest what the planet's agenda was. And then there's a whole sequence of aspect conditions, and Hellenistic astrology had a very different view of the meaning of aspects and how to interpret them in terms of concepts of planets seeing each other, of witnessing each other's actions, of giving testimony about what they had seen, and that testimony being taken into account by a jury or a judge or the astrologer insofar as how well the planet could be expected to perform and what were specifically its strengths, and by contrast, where were the areas where it had vulnerabilities that, if brought to consciousness, could be worked with in a way that would ultimately be more helpful.
And will you be teaching all of the techniques for evaluating planetary condition in this course?
I will be teaching the first teachings of each of the major categories of planetary condition. And after the first level teachings, each category has more advanced teachings. But having had the first level teachings first, then the students are more able to go back into the material and have a foundation on which to lay the advanced teachings. And for brand new people to the tradition, looking at each section all at once may be overwhelming, but here we're trying to break it down into bite-sized, digestible pieces so that brick by brick you can build the foundation of understanding a system that, to me, is so beautiful and elegant and structured and offers rationales and explanations for many of the maxims that we just sort of learn by rote in our studies of astrology. And we ask, well, why is this way? And the teacher says, I don't really know. It's what my teacher told me, and so I'm passing it on to you. So that, for me, was such an exciting process in my learning of Hellenistic astrology, and was very fulfilling. And also to tap into the incredibly rich lineage of the work of astrologers before us who were our ancestors, and how indeed we stand on the shoulders of giants, and how it was they were thinking about the principles of astrology that we now use in our counseling and interpretation.
So it sounds like the course is a really rich adjunct to the book that you've written as well, right? And
right.
So people will be using the book in the course?
Yes, the book is required. Each week I'll have you read sections in the book that review what I've taught you in the lesson, and that way you will have the opportunity to go over the material a second time, to pick up pieces that I may not have mentioned, and to be able to further imprint the material in your own learning process. And there will be additional exercises in the book that, if you do them, will also help you learn the material.
And before we wrap up today, can you tell students a little bit about the logistics, like how many classes there are?
Yes, there'll be 8 pre-recorded courses, pre-recorded lessons. Each lesson will start, except for the first, will start off with a review of the concepts and homework from the previous week. And then we'll introduce new material. Throughout the lesson, we will show how it is applied and interpreted in the sample charts. And then you will be given a reading assignment, and then the form, which you will fill out for each one of your homework charts and each one of your personal charts. In addition to these 8 classes that will go over a period of 2 months, there will be 3 additional live Q&A sessions. So you are encouraged to keep track of your questions as you go along, to submit them. And then in the live sessions, I'll pick up your questions, and as many as we can, we'll go through and answer. And don't be afraid of asking a question that you may think is very simple, because if it's occurred to you, it's probably occurred to other people, and that the whole group can benefit through that. One of the problems of teachers who have been teaching for many years is that there are certain steps that seem so automatic to us at this point that we sometimes lose track of beginner's mind. And there might be one or two things that should have been said, but the aged teacher thinks, oh yeah, well, everyone should know that. And those are the pieces that are very important that you as students will pick up on, and those are especially helpful to everyone. So I don't want anyone to feel hesitant or embarrassed to submit the questions that arise for you, because ultimately my aim is to be able to share this information with you in a way that you actually can learn it and apply it to benefit not only your own learning process, but to benefit everyone else whose charts that you look at, through being able to have a more solid foundation based on a heritage of 2,000 years of the great minds of astrologers working with the tradition to give you support for moving forward in the 21st century with the ongoing work of astrology.
Well, it sounds great, and thanks for putting together all this material, Demetra.
Okay, it'll be a pleasure, Tony, and I look forward to the course being launched very soon now.